what about the hospice? You saw this very thin, bald, fragile person being removed from the cottage hospital into the hospice.
Yeah, it was just seeing, Claire sort of huddled over in this wheelchair, like an old lady really, sorry. But you just sat there with, she didn't even, because, Claire always likes to look lovely, as you can probably tell. And,
tries.
No, she didn't want a lipstick, she wasn't reading, she just didn't care what she looked like at all, which was, and why would you in that state? But it was just so out of character that, Sylvia and I...
You're not your character anymore, you're not her.
No.
That's gone.
Yeah, and...
It's all gone, everything. Gone.
Yeah, I mean, you were so frightened, because I can remember you'd say to me things like, oh God, will this ever go? Will I ever be all right again? And I didn't have the answers for that, but I just sort of say, yeah, you'll be fine, you'll get through this, you're strong. And Sylvia as well was really, she just didn't know what to do, I don't think, Claire's poor old mum. She just was totally out of her depth. She just didn't have a clue, did she, bless her? But she'd never experienced it before.
It's extra difficult because it is her child.
Well, exactly. I was a bit removed, even though I love this woman, and I had been in love with her. I'm still a bit removed from it. Whereas Sylvia, it's her
child.
It's a child.
Yes.
And so, I got quite close to Sylvia over that year. I think very close actually, and we sort of helped each other along. It was a rough time, wasn't it? Very bad.
Can I ask? You were saying that your personality had gone. The outside person had gone when you were talking about the clothes and things. What's left? How did you feel when at that? What was left when all the outside stuff and the makeup and everything had gone? Who were you? Can you remember what you felt like?
I think for me, there was just a nothingness. There's a nothingness. There's nothing. There's nothing. That's why I was able to watch the clock for hours, because, talk about being in the present. There wasn't anything else really. There was nothing outside of that room. There was the corridor eventually, when I started walking on the frame. But dignity goes, vanity goes. It's hard to describe nothing, because there was nothing. If one gets to the point where one actually wants to die, the me that was me wasn't even aware that I wanted to die. Because there was nothing, it was someone else, but it was a nothing person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's very difficult. It's like it's almost like it's a skeleton with flesh on, but I was a skeleton with flesh on,
but you were inside it.
But it didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like there was anything there. It's just been a big sorting out, I think, of what is really important and what isn't, and not doing things that aren't, not pleasing people because you want to please someone else, but pleasing yourself because that's more important, really. As I said, the vanity's gone, it doesn't matter anymore. Well, of course it's nice for people to like you and love you, and there was a huge amount of love that I received, I feel, don't you, Jackie, when I had flowers and flowers.
You did, last year, yeah.
And that was marvellous, it was fantastic. I had gifts, so many gifts, cards, flowers. My room at my mother's was full of flowers, wasn't it?
It was last Christmas, it was just a shame you weren't there to see it.
Oh, these beautiful bouquets, it was just wonderful, and all those people are extremely extremely important to me.
Mm.
But I used to run around like a headless chicken. I
Mm.
don't really do that anymore. Not really, even though I say there's a lot to do. But the priorities have changed.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
There's not really a lot. There's no time to waste.
What do you want to do?
Well, perhaps this is a vanity thing in a way. I want to leave something. A legacy. I want to, I think, do my little artworks, which I did do a bit, didn't I?
Mhm.
And then that's got sidetracked. So then one of the New Year's resolutions is to get back to that, and to actually paint pictures for people that I care about, so that if something happens to me, they have got something that is from my heart.
Mm.
I'm in the process of writing up notes that I kept for the year this last year that I've been ill. I have written one book, which I think I will try and get published. That's not about being ill though.
No.
That's a self-help book for women, really.
Mm.
So there's several projects. But it's also learning. I mean, I'm a scholar. I like to learn all the time, and it's learning for me about living. I don't know. My whole life's been about what I call becoming sane. Because I think I was probably quite insane before I had cancer, and cancer's actually given me, strangely, hypothetically, a lifeline. It's given me an anchor in a way. It's got me, as I think I was saying to you, Antonia, before, it's got me inside myself. Whereas I wasn't before, I was very disassociated from me. And it's taken all that illness and that huge wake-up call to actually become much more centred, although that is still quite difficult. I feel able to manage a lot more uncomfortable feelings because I don't have the crutches that I used to have before I was ill, like half a bottle of wine or a cigarette or anything like that. I don't have any of those things.
Be honest.
Well, a little bit of cannabis. I don't have those crutches anymore.
I do. I needed all of those when she was ill. Excuse me.
You know, living in my fairy tale land with those substances, I don't have that anymore. I've only got this now. So in a way, I'm creating my own magical world, my own natural highs, and of course I've had to face my own mortality as well, which has been a huge thing. How do you do that? You know, how does one face the fact that one day this will all be over? Yeah, so it's gone from being a nothing to being, well, I'm still in that creative, I'm still processing all that, I'm still in that creation of myself. And it's very true, I think, what you hear is there is a definite before and after. You know, when you faced something so catastrophic, really. far more emotional than I ever used to be. If somebody dies or I lose somebody or something happens, it's floods of tears, but then I think, oh, that's wonderful because I can feel. You know, I feel things now. There's no repression anymore. There's no oppression or anything like that of anything. Because I can't control it. And I think we do. We spend a lot of time trying not to feel what we might feel because it's uncomfortable. It's painful. And there's that fear of if we go into that pit of despair, we won't come out the other side. That's what I used to feel. So I'd use those things to not feel, really. But it wasn't nice. It was a very bad space, really. Now, I can cry and weep and wail on my own. Whereas I probably felt very uncomfortable about doing that before I was ill, but now I think, well, actually, there's not really anything I can do about it. This is what I feel. This is it, feel it.
And you can cope with it.
Yeah. It's not always comfortable, but I think it's ecstasy in a way. It's part of the ecstasy of life. Pain is part of the ecstasy of life. Before I was ill, I didn't want pain, I didn't want to hurt, I didn't want to cry, I didn't want, I wanted all the nice things. Everything to be lovely and wonderful. But that isn't life. It's not like that. It hurts sometimes. And now it actually feels great to be able to feel all that. To feel such grief and despair, but also, as saying goes, the deeper you can feel that despair and grief and all the rest of it, the higher you can feel the joy and ecstasy. And the tears can be enjoyable tears, beautiful tears, at the beauty and tragedy of life, really. I'd worked this out before I had this dream, because I wanted it put on my tombstone. I came with nothing and I left with everything. And I had this dream that I was dead and everything was black. There was that nothing. There was nothing. I was nothing, there was nothing except black, black, black. But I realised it was nothing and everything. It was most extraordinary. And then I woke up.
How did you feel with the nothing and everything?
Incredible. It just felt incredible. Because I thought, I had this strong belief that when I died, I would go into the universe and I would see stars and planets. I'd be up there with the stars and the planets in the universe. And in fact, if I had enough money, I did think I might have my ashes taken up in a rocket and scattered in space. That was my idea. And I thought, oh no, I couldn't afford that. They'd have to go up in a firework. They wouldn't get very high, would they? But then I've changed my mind about that. But there weren't any stars, there weren't any planets, it was just dark. It was just dark. But it was okay. And I think maybe it was because I'd actually been in that dark when I was alive. It was still okay to be in that dark when I wasn't alive. So I think I realised for me one day everything's going to go black. There won't be all this colour here. I don't think so.